people were asking me about support for veterans. And I was like, why don't we support veterans? Suicide is an epidemic in our country, why wouldn't we do this? And it's actually just helped me think about it a little bit more. We do listen, and we want to be a brand that can appeal to every guy out there. And I think, that means finding the different types of populations and appealing to them. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're so excited and grateful that you're here with us today. For anybody here that is new to the lab, welcome. I want to introduce Maggie. Many of you know her, love her. She is such a powerhouse in the social impact space. She's a one-person team at Harry's, really leading incredibly important work.
So I want to start, as everyone knows, the work that you're doing at Harry's and leading social impact. You guys have done fantastic work on men's mental health. And curious to understand, given with COVID, there's been a lot being written, a lot being talked about in terms of how are people faring, right? And the stats and the data on mental health during COVID is very alarming. So talk to us a bit about how COVID has either helped you double down or pivot a little bit in how you're tackling mental health for men in not just the US, but in the UK and globally.
When we started taking on this cause of men's mental health and talking about mental health, it was like, I think 2.5-ish years ago, right? When we had our first donation to an organization that was doing that work. And I think, then I think people sort of understood. We did some education around men in particular, men die by 3.5 times more likely than women, veteran, we lose 22 veterans a day. We could lean in. I think we're doing some education on why that was important. I think we don't need to do as much education anymore. I think it's just become easier to talk about getting our custom crisis text line on, the homepage on, I don't know, at some point in February. That would have been a hard ask. Mm-hmm. Even if I had been can we do it for May, Mental Health Month? Our team might have pushed back a little bit. During COVID, that decision happened in a heartbeat, happened at midnight. The next morning, it's up and our crisis text line is on the page. Right. And all of a sudden, our line has soared 4 times the normal volume. I think the external stuff is definitely there, and we did the work there, and we sent emails that were some of our highest performing emails that we've ever sent. But then internally, I think was the huge shift as well, and hopefully a ton of shifts that are happening in the workplace that people are seeing. We were just able to prioritize our team's mental health and talk about mental health in a totally different way than we were before. And I like to think it was because of all the external work and all the groundwork we had done throughout the years, talking about suicide in team meeting, not being afraid to talk about why LGBTQ folks suffer from depression, anxiety more than their straight peers. All of that stuff all of a sudden just cashed in for us, I guess. And we were able to talk about it in a really advanced way, which I think was great for us.
Talk to us about so you set an impact goal of reaching 500,000 men by 2021, right? Yeah. You just came out a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a couple of weeks ago when you announced, and you far surpassed. I think you had 650,000 so far. Yeah. So let's talk to us about that achievement of setting that goal, and then what was some of the biggest challenges in getting there?
And I think we're at 700,000, which is great. We're going to keep climbing, which is awesome. We established men's mental health. It felt like the right fit. It felt like the brand fit. And then it was okay, how are we actually going to make an impact and communicate the impact? And then from there, sign partners one-off, worked with partners for months to develop proposals with them that worked for them, that was aligned with their goals. We really wanted to make sure that when we ran this campaign with Do Something, for example, just getting out the word with Do Something and making sure we didn't count the numbers of people who came to this website through this mental health campaign. That wasn't enough for us. It was how do we get there? How do we get a deeper sort of engagement that we can prove that okay, this young man, this boy got access to mental health care. Awareness probably wasn't what we were going after, and just would never count in what we call our numbers.
As you now have surpassed your initial goal, and as you're thinking about the future, do you think at some point you would consider moving to an kind of more outcomes measurement? Or do you think just given where you sit and what you do, that will be really difficult? And so you'll just keep setting goals for how many men you can reach through partners to create access, and the impact of that and the outcomes of that will happen through your partners. So I'm just curious how you're thinking about that.
anyone can admit that like the mental health space is really hard
Yeah.
to sort of identify impact, to change suicide rates for particular populations. That is like a 20-year
Yep.
project. And some of our partners are doing that on their own. Like Stop Soldier Suicide has a vision and a goal for doing that. Who's one of our partners? So that's great. Like we'll help you get there. But for a company that's only 8 years old now, it felt really hard to do something like that,
Yeah.
knowing that impact is like a little bit elusive. We know mental health looks different for everyone. We know success looks different for everyone. So that was like actually one of the reasons why we wanted to go after reach versus like an outcome.
And where does your customer fit in that too? Because you've carved out a focus on men's mental health, right?
Yeah.
But then you've taken actually quite like a comprehensive approach. Like you're saying, like let's look at where the biggest issues of men's mental health exist, right? And so you have some of your, and you've done that through partnership, right? So looking at LGBTQ, right? You're looking at it through the lens of veterans, right, and military because of PTSD and so on. So you've gone that approach. Is part of the reason for that when you think about your customer is so varied that if you went really narrow and focus on one angle of men's mental health, you were concerned that you would not appeal as broadly as you do with the way you've gone at it? And does that continue to sort of factor into how you think about impact moving forward?
We talk about it a lot about we are an affordable brand. We reach many different populations, and like that's going to continue to be important to us. So how can we choose a cause that we think is broad enough in scope that appeals to many different communities across the US and in the UK, and then as we grow, I think like it's about finding that cause that resonates with everyone. And I do think that if we were to do something too refined, I do worry that it would come off as like, putting too many eggs in one basket and not appealing or something like that.
You are a team of one, right? You've got all kinds of people you can access, but
a ton. Yeah.
So, I mean, amazing what you do in the company, even in companies who have lots more people working on their impact. The question around partnership is critical, right? And I think it strikes me that you guys have taken an interesting view of partnerships and how to kind of the thoughtfulness of it. So I'm curious about, is there a particular approach you bring to it? What have you found has worked really well as you think about the partners that can deliver on the impact goal that you've set? And where has it gone really right? And where have you found some, like, you don't have to name any names, but just where has it gone wrong? Like, where have you found like, oof, I don't want to ever do that again?
Yeah. Well, I think it's gone right a lot of the time, which is great. First, I would say Harry's is like a very empathetic place. I was actually a nonprofit partner to Harry's. So I had an understanding of how Harry's views partnerships already. And I think, we just could really try to identify where some of the pain points are that I'm sure everyone on this call knows and has experienced too, but like, wasting people's time, not being really clear with expectations, not being really honest when you don't see a proposal going anywhere, a partnership going anywhere. So I think we like to do that. And then also like identify really distinct projects, which has worked for us. Like every project has a beginning, middle, and end, and it's a year-long contract. We have monthly check-ins with every single one of our partners. Where we talk about the impact, we check in about the where the tracking goals are heading, and then like any potential storytelling opportunities. Like that's what we do. That's sort of like our formula. As we grow, that is going to be really hard. So that's just like one of the things that I'm working on. It's me right now. I also manage social impact for Flamingo. I also manage social impact for some new brands that are coming up. There's going to be new stuff that are happening.
Thank you so much, Maggie, and everybody that joined us today, for being here, for sharing, for your thoughtful answers. I think the work that you're doing is incredible, and I'm excited to see what more comes of this. And thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be doing these Coffee with a Purpose every Friday.
Thanks again, Maggie. Appreciate it.
Thanks
everybody.
Bye, y'all.